Well, it never fails, does it, friends? We planted seeds, and here comes another polar vortex. So it is currently about 25 degrees outside. It's staying about 55, 50, 60 in the greenhouse here, but it's been dropping. This little heater is just not enough to keep it more than 20, 30 degrees above temperature outside because the greenhouse is not well insulated. I did pop a little electric heater in here. I'm not sure how much it'll help, but at least I can say I tried, right? So we just got back from a trip, and I want to show you the progress on the seeds. Some good news, some bad news. Good news is, and I just gave them a little bit of water, but the good news is we've got a lot of stuff starting to sprout up here. You can see this is the delphinium, but you can also see we had some die off. I'm guessing, most of these were bone dry when I got here. I don't think it's overwatering, I think it's actually underwatering in this case. At least I hope so, since I just gave some water. We've got one columbine popping up. That's it, out of all of the ones we planted. Yeah, the delphinium is not doing great either. It's strange, like certain trays popped up, and then certain trays, those might still be alive down there. It's hard to tell. I think they're dying off though. So not a real good rate for the delphinium there. Alright, next tray, you can see the same thing. One columbine popped up. I'm assuming that's columbine, although it might be a weed. I have to let it go. I don't know if I've never grown columbines before. If you have, I'm curious as to your take on weed versus flower there. This verbascum really popped up nicely. The heliotrope was probably the worst die-off. You can see all of these guys here popped up and died. Some of them are still going back there. I'm torn whether or not to leave the lids on, simply because of how cold it's going to get tonight. So I think I'm going to leave them on for, I think it's at least 2 or 3 more days of cold weather. I think I'm going to leave them on, but cracked a little bit, try to keep some of the warmth in, and we'll see how that works out. You can see the alyssum in this tray is just starting in the front half, but the back half has nothing. Now the back half I covered with vermiculite, and the front half I just covered with a little bit of soil. And you can tell it looks like the covering it with just the soil was the way to go, because it's got a 70% rate of growth versus 0. And I did flip the tray around. Oh, actually not 0. I see a couple over here. So there's a little bit, but not much. I did flip the tray around in case that was doing the difference. The lobelia on the outside sprouted, and on the inside is just starting to sprout. I might need to give those a little bit of water, but man, I'm always so afraid to overwater seeds. Let's see, how's the tray feel? The tray feels heavy. I think it's just getting water to the outside and not the inside of the tray is the problem. See if I push this down a little bit. You can see it's sort of bulged up in the center. So I think I'm just going to mist these guys in the center a little bit. Just give them a little bit of water. That's it. Hopefully that's enough to get those middle ones going. The outside ones look good, so I'm not going to touch them. This is the worst time for seeds, when they just sprout. Once they get a little bigger, you can see when they're drooping a little bit and know to give them water. But at this stage, it's so easy to overwater them. Now this is the pink alyssum, and for whatever reason, you can see it really took off. It's so far ahead of the white alyssum. And again, we just got one Cupid's dart, a single one. So I don't know. The cells on the left there look a little dry. Over here, yep. Well, they're not too dry. I'm gonna leave those go. And then up here we've got, what do we have? Some more lobelia. You can see that lobelia took off really well in the front half, but not so well in the back half. It may have been how it was hitting the. It may just be how it hits the, or how it sits on the heating mat. Maybe the front got a little bit more heat. But we're going to let those go. I'm going to crack it just a little bit. And once this cold goes, I can take these all off the heating mat. But I'm afraid it's just not going to stay warm enough in the greenhouse, so I want to let it go a little bit here. And then you can see in here, I've got my snap peas, they're shooting up. And a geranium cutting that doesn't look like it's doing too well. And my petunias that they're cuttings from the summer that I was keeping going over the winter here, and they were doing really well, but they got too dry. I should have put them in a pot of water or in a container or something bigger before I left. So I'm hoping they'll make a recovery, but it's not looking too good. Figs, some dried out, and this guy lost his leaves while I was gone. But you can see they're all starting to sprout to life, despite the cold weather. Even this little rose bush here, Double Delight, my favorite, Teresa's favorite, it's starting to sprout out. And this geranium didn't like drying out, and it's got lots of flowers, but it's hurting. So watered it. It's always tough going on vacation when you have, plants of any type, especially in the winter. In the summer, I can automate it using the hosing system and everything. In the winter, it's a lot more difficult because I don't have the hose in here. I do have a white barrel, 55-gallon drum filled with water. So at some point, there's a plan to hook the pump in there up to the irrigation system that I have running all around the greenhouse, but it's, I don't know, a little more complicated than I care to get into, but because I like to use the hose, so I'd have to put a valve on it to switch between the hose and the irrigation. It's just one of those things that I don't need it all too much, except for maybe, once a year. I normally don't have these seeds going this early, but wanted to give it a shot a little bit earlier this year and see what happens. So, alright, 59 degrees. Let's hope that temp holds as it gets colder and colder out here tonight. I'm PA Figs. I hope you stay warm here over the next couple days.